The cold metal of a 9mm pistol pressed hard against Marcus Lynn's temple, the freezing rain masking the violent tremor in Julian Vance's hands. In the pitch-black darkness of a deserted industrial park, a sudden, deafening muzzle flash shattered the night, followed instantly by a second, sickening thud as Marcus's body collapsed heavily into the wet mud. Julian stood entirely frozen, gasping for breath, staring down at the lifeless eyes of his lifelong best friend and business partner. For months, Julian had planned this exact moment with cold, mathematical precision, knowing that Marcus was about to destroy everything they had built. He frantically dragged the heavy body toward the trunk of his car, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped animal, completely consumed by the terrifying rush of adrenaline. He was a millionaire, a tech prodigy, and a master of digital security, and he was absolutely certain he had just committed the perfect, untraceable crime. He believed with absolute certainty that he had buried a secret no one would ever discover, completely unaware that his horrific descent into madness was already being quietly recorded by the invisible world around him. To the public, Julian Vance was an untouchable genius who had conquered the tech world by age 30. Alongside Marcus, his childhood friend, he had built Vance Cybernetics into a sprawling cybersecurity empire that was currently on the verge of an $80 million corporate buyout. They were days away from unimaginable wealth, the kind of success that guarantees a lifetime of luxury and power. But behind the closed, soundproof doors of their glass executive suites, a vicious, hidden war was tearing their friendship apart. Marcus had inadvertently discovered a devastating truth while running a routine financial audit. Julian had been secretly embezzling millions from their corporate accounts, funneling the stolen wealth into highly encrypted offshore cryptocurrency wallets. When Marcus confronted him, presenting a mountain of evidence, Julian didn't apologize. Instead, his face contorted into a mask of pure rage. Marcus gave an ultimatum: confess to the board of directors by Friday morning, or he would blow the whistle, expose the fraud, and tank the multi-million-dollar buyout. In that exact moment of intense panic and greed, Julian realized that his brilliant, wealthy future could only survive if Marcus Lynn died. The morning after the shooting, the atmosphere inside the Vance Cybernetics headquarters was thick with suffocating tension. Marcus's wife, terrified and weeping uncontrollably, arrived at the office accompanied by local detectives after her husband failed to return home. The police immediately zeroed in on Julian, knowing the two partners had been overheard shouting violently at each other just hours before Marcus vanished into thin air. When lead detective Sarah Miller entered Julian's office, she expected to find a sweating, unraveled suspect cracking under the immense weight of guilt. Instead, she was met by a man who was chillingly calm, sitting behind his desk with an unsettling, relaxed smile. Julian didn't defensive or uncooperative. He immediately handed over his personal computer, his laptop, and his primary smartphone, offering his full assistance to the desperate investigation. He knew precisely what the police would find on those devices because he had designed the very systems they were using to track him. Julian's digital alibi was a masterclass in technological deception, carefully constructed to fool the most advanced forensic investigators. Security cameras at the corporate headquarters clearly captured Julian entering his private executive suite at 7:15 p.m. on the night of the murder and showing absolutely no footage of him leaving the building until 6 a.m. the following morning. His primary smartphone's internal GPS logs backed this up flawlessly, demonstrating that the device had remained completely stationary on his office desk for nearly 11 consecutive hours. Furthermore, Julian had spent weeks researching the specific blind spots in the city's traffic camera network, mapping out a highly secretive, off-grid route to lure Marcus to that dark industrial park using a pair of disposable burner phones. As Detective Miller reviewed the flawless digital data, a profound sense of frustration settled over the department. Julian had successfully created an airtight, high-tech fortress around himself, leaving the police with absolutely no legal leverage to detain him. Driven by desperation and the heartbreaking pleas of Marcus's family, the police executed a highly invasive search warrant on Julian's sprawling, ultramodern suburban mansion. A team of 20 forensic technicians tore through the house, ripping up pristine hardwood floors, dismantling drainage pipes, and spraying massive amounts of luminol to search for any hidden blood spatters or signs of a violent struggle. Julian stood on his manicured lawn, watching the chaotic search with an expression of calm amusement, even offering the exhausted officers bottles of water. The intensive search yielded absolutely nothing. No DNA, no weapon, no physical evidence whatsoever. To further cement his innocence and manipulate public perception, Julian held an emotional press conference on the steps of the courthouse, his voice cracking with artificial grief as he announced a $100,000 reward for any information regarding his missing best friend. Marcus's family sobbed openly in the front row, completely blind to the fact that the monstrous killer was standing right in front of them, basking in the spotlight of his own twisted game. Months bled into a year, and the intense media frenzy surrounding the disappearance slowly began to fade into a distant memory. Without a body, and without a single shred of physical evidence linking Julian to a crime, the district attorney's office was legally paralyzed, unable to file a single charge. The investigation officially stalled, grinding to a painful, frustrating halt. With Marcus legally declared a missing person, Julian smoothly executed the $80 million corporate buyout, taking absolute control of the empire and walking away with a staggering personal fortune. He abandoned his old life, purchasing a heavily secluded estate nestled deep in the hills, surrounded by high walls and state-of-the-art security systems. He had successfully beaten the system, transforming his horrific crime into the ultimate stepping stone for his twisted ambition. His initial fear transformed into an intense, dangerous arrogance, leading him to believe that he was completely superior to the law. Julian began writing highly publicized thought leadership articles online, subtly mocking the ineptitude of modern law enforcement under the guise of discussing data privacy. In one chilling blog post that was widely shared across the tech industry, he wrote a sentence that would later send shivers down the spines of investigators. In the 21st century, disappearing is a conscious choice. If you truly understand how data flows, you can make any event look like it never existed at all. He truly believed he was a ghost in the machine. He had manually smashed the burner phones with a hammer and melted the pieces. He had deeply wiped his laptop's registry cache using military-grade data shredders. He had even factory reset his luxury hybrid vehicle's dashboard navigation system to erase any record of his midnight drive. He was completely convinced that he had successfully scrubbed every single digital footprint he left behind on that terrifying October night. But 2 years after Marcus disappeared, a specialized state cybercrimes task force took over the frozen cold case, bringing a radical new perspective to the investigation. They knew that a cybersecurity expert like Julian would easily wipe any device he had direct physical control over. Instead of looking at his phone or his computer, they began to look at the silent, passive, machine-to-machine data that occurs completely in the background of modern existence, the data Julian couldn't see, block, or delete. Investigators began by pulling the raw server logs from the corporate headquarters' smart network router on the night of the murder. While Julian's phone was indeed connected to the office Wi-Fi all night, the network data revealed a shocking anomaly. Between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., the phone had exchanged exactly 0 bytes of active data. No background applications refreshed, no emails synced, and no push notifications were acknowledged. The phone wasn't being operated by a human being. It had been left on the desk as a dead piece of plastic to simulate an alibi, while Julian slipped out of the building through an unmonitored emergency exit. If Julian wasn't with his phone, his entire defense was completely obliterated, forcing investigators to look at his home automation data for answers. Julian's mansion was equipped with an expensive, high-end smart bed designed to track sleep quality, heart rate, and body movement through sensitive biometric sensors. When cyberforensics specialists subpoenaed the cloud server data from the mattress manufacturer, the terrifying truth began to unravel. On the night Marcus vanished, the smart bed recorded absolutely 0 weight on the mattress during the exact hours Julian swore, under oath, he was sleeping peacefully at home. Furthermore, his mansion's smart thermostat log showed that at 10:45 p.m., the home's water usage instantly dropped to 0, and the entire HVAC system automatically shifted into an automated away, power-saving mode. The house itself was actively testifying against its owner, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that the mansion was completely empty. The final devastating blow came from the very machine Julian used to transport his victim's body. While Julian had successfully cleared his vehicle's dashboard navigation history, he drove a top-tier luxury hybrid car. Unknown to almost all drivers, these advanced vehicles contain a secondary, heavily encrypted cellular module that constantly broadcasts battery diagnostics, engine health, and cell tower handoffs directly back to the manufacturer's central servers for maintenance tracking. Investigators bypassed Julian entirely, executing a federal warrant on the car manufacturer's corporate headquarters. The raw data backups provided a terrifyingly precise map of Julian's movements. The telematics showed his car traveling down a dark, isolated state highway at 2:45 a.m. on the night of the murder. The vehicle's cellular pings tracked him directly to a remote, treacherous swamp acreage over 60 miles away from his office, a desolate location Julian had publicly claimed he had never visited in his entire life. Armed with the exact, undeniable GPS coordinates extracted from the car's hidden automated data, an elite forensic search team and a dozen police officers descended upon the dense, murky swamp. After 6 hours of digging through the freezing mud and thick underbrush in the pouring rain, an investigator's shovel struck a heavy sheet of plastic. Deep in the earth, they uncovered a heavily wrapped tarp containing the badly decomposed remains of Marcus Lind, with 2 distinct bullet entry wounds in his torso. The digital mask had been completely ripped away, revealing the horrifying monster hiding underneath. The machine-to-machine data didn't just break Julian's alibi, it provided an unbroken, mathematical timeline of a cold-blooded execution. The following morning, a massive convoy of police cruisers swarmed Julian's new luxury estate, their sirens wailing through the quiet hills. Detectives kicked down the heavily fortified front door, finding Julian sitting in his living room, completely stunned as heavy steel handcuffs clicked tightly around his wrists. In the interrogation room, the smug, arrogant smile vanished instantly when Detective Miller slid the printed data sheets across the table, showing the exact pings from his car, his thermostat, and his smart mattress. Julian realized with a wave of intense horror that he hadn't been undone by a human witness or a mistake in his planning. He had been betrayed by the very technology he worshipped. To avoid the death penalty, Julian Vance took a desperate plea deal, weeping openly as he signed a full confession detailing how he had murdered his best friend for money, resulting in a sentence of life in prison without any possibility of parole. Julian Vance spent his entire career mastering data security, believing he could completely control how the world perceived him. His terrifying case stands as a stark warning for the modern world. The darkest secrets we think are buried forever are often being quietly, flawlessly recorded by the silent digital witnesses we willingly build into our lives. If you found this gripping true crime investigation deeply fascinating, please make sure to smash the like button, drop a comment below with your thoughts on this high-tech betrayal, and subscribe to the channel right now so you never miss another chilling deep dive into the dark side of human nature.